Magnus Carlsen's first move.
Knight C3.
Knight C3, you think?
E3.
E3.
E3 is a good bet.
H4.
It's
Harry.
It's Harry, but this is a very dirty Harry. This one. This is not a happy Harry. This is a dirty Harry. This is one of the. Oh, are you looking at me, son? This is. Oh my God.
The accelerated Harry attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My word.
This is actually the first time we've ever caught a move like this.
Yeah. Normally we see it happen on other boards, or we see one C3, one D3, the boring stuff. No, H4 now, and what is that white pawn doing out on H4? It makes no sense. It doesn't fight for the centre. It doesn't improve the development of the white pieces.
Loving
it, Simon?
I don't really know if I'm loving it or not, but it's. I've played this in Blitz, obviously, and it's a load of rubbish. It's a terrible move.
We have the Harry attack against the Queen's Gambit. It's the Queen's Gambit with reverse colours, and Magnus has declined the Gambit. Yeah. Wow. I mean, this is basically a normal position with colours reversed, except white has that one extra move, H4, and if anything, it worsens the position. White's king is never going to be safe castling on this side of the board anymore.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out, like, what are the worst moves that white can play in move one, and I'd say, like, H4 is probably the third. So I've got F3, knight H3, maybe H4, but OK, I mean, he's now going into a tarish, so he's got to make H4 work. This is the thing. He's got to try to think of an opening variation that he would normally play with black and make that Harry pawn fit into it. Because as David says, you know, pushing a pawn, they can't go backwards and you weaken squares, especially the square next to Harry there, that light square next to it. But what a way to start the game. I mean, pushing that pawn with, like, you know, well, I mean, what a lunatic.
But this, you know, we talked about, like, Magnus being just crazy, making this dirty move. But then just take a look at Wei Yi. He looks like it's just another day at the office.
Exactly.
You know? I'm not bothered. I'm not surprised by this.
Yeah. At this point, it's no longer a surprise that Magnus kind of digs deep into his bag of tricks and just plucks out the weirdest move. His opponents are beginning to expect this. I think the bigger shock would be Magnus playing a normal opening at this point. Yeah. And I think the most kind of surprising thing out of all of these surprises is that Magnus, he actually studies these types of moves. When he played 1F3 against Duda last month, he had analysed some opening theory. He'd worked out what he wanted to do against black's most obvious moves, and he's clearly done the same again. He's gained 20 seconds from when he started this game, and
he's taking chess in new directions.
Definitely worked out this.
But you know something, you know, the quiz of the day is what is your chess level, and by opening up with that first move, you often see this as the first move that a beginner who hasn't seen the board before plays.
True. Get the rooks out.
Get the rooks out.
Yeah,
that's the only theory that I know.
Yeah, I mean, if you showed anyone this guess the ELO kind of thing, it would be like, it's probably about 300 ELO or something.
Yeah, that's quite a fun game that I notice a lot of streamers play nowadays. They ask one of their viewers to kind of show them a game and they'll try and guess the ELO. And if you show them this position, I would say, maximum 1400.
Yeah.
No, he's double that rating, Magnus.
Definitely. No, I just saw an answer to our quiz of the day, which I thought I have to share with you, especially in light of this. And it's from Cancel, who says that their chess level is like drunk Daniel Dubov. Fireworks, aggression, terrible blunders, and brilliant moves. Of course, the key is to have fun. I love that drunk Dubov. And, OK, well...
Sensible play.
It's a very sensible, very classical play. It's almost like where he's like, well, I'm just going to forget about Harry.
Yeah, he's just going to keep his cool.
But talking about Harry, how is Harry looking right now? Starting to
lonely, very lonely over there. He sort of put me back where I came from, please. You know, I mean, it doesn't look so stupid. And actually, if you get what we call an isolated pawn position, the Harry pawn over there is very useful in certain positions, but you've now got to really take it into... This is where you're really going to be an artist, because you've got to direct the middle game position where that pawn looks sensible and not stupid. So it's going to be... Yeah, I mean, with his experience, he can do that. I mean, it's kind of terrible, though, you know, showing this to kids out there. Might be a lot of kids watching this. You know, it's like showing them a naughty video or something, isn't it?
That's why it's the last game of the day, son.
It's
the last game of the day. It's like...
the kids are asleep.
I know, yeah, the kids... Hopefully they're all asleep, because you show this to someone who's trying to learn chess, you know, and it's like, oh, my words, you know, Magnus Carlsen's pushing H4. I'm going to play like this. No, don't play like this. You know, it's not good.
Kaya did ask me. She said, "Is Magnus a good role model?" just a couple of days ago, and definitely not in this game.
Yeah.
But
it's fun. It's fun, isn't it?
Fun.
We love it.
That's why we love chess. Yeah. I mean, he's pretty much secure at this point. We see above Magnus there. He's got 22 points. He's pretty much guaranteed to get through to the knockout stages. So why not enjoy the chess? And okay, imagine how incredible it would be if White's H-pawn ends up winning the day with some attack or by promoting. Harry can become Harriet, become a queen, and win the game. Who knows?
Somehow I don't know. But then where you would be like, I'm the person that lost to one.
Yeah, that's the annoying thing, isn't it? I mean, you've got to forget about that, right? Because you don't want to lose to a ridiculous move and be remembered as that person. So maybe this is a bit of a psychological ploy against the Chinese camp in case Ding Liren qualifies. It's like, I can beat you of H4. They're going to be thinking, oh no, you know. So
if Ding qualifies for a World Championship match against Magnus, imagine the Ding camp studying one H4.
I mean, come on, they can't do that. But now it looks
but
right.
Now it's okay. Now it's not a problem because the queens are off the board. And, Magnus is working his magic. He's gotten away with it.
But I remember Magnus in the Masters last month starting out with 1 F3. Then H4 seems quite sane, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's why I was trying to work out what are the worst moves White can play, and Magnus is finding them. I don't need to worry about it. You know, Magnus is finding all the worst moves.
Yeah, and I had just ahead of the Chessable Masters, I had a chat with Magnus about the worst first moves. He said, I think, according to the computer, actually, the Grob 1G4 is the worst.
Oh, really?
Or alongside...
Wow. He hasn't played that yet, has he? Yeah. So he hasn't played 1G4 yet. This is one stretch too far, maybe even for Magnus. So.
And maybe we can jump in to show what's happened, because there have been a lot of differences. So this is the current position, and if we just backtrack a few moves ago, here, Wei Yi had a big decision to make. Here, I think if he was trying to punish Magnus's 1H4 push, then he would have kind of refrained from any trades. He would have, for example, castled the black king. But now the question is, maybe this pawn push becomes relevant. Maybe the white pawn can go forward and destabilize the black king position. Maybe the white rook can even kind of come and swing across later on. So Wei Yi said, OK, no more fun for you, Magnus. We're going to grind it out in an endgame. And if we backtrack, instead of castling, he played pawn takes pawn, allowing this queen trade. And if we fast forward to the current position, it's actually very symmetrical right now. These pawns are completely balanced by White's pawns. White maybe has slightly better bishops. That's the one difference in this position. White's bishops kind of look very nicely along these diagonals. Meanwhile, the black bishops are still stuck at home. But other than that, everything is balanced. And as Simon said, this white H pawn doesn't look too great, too bad anymore.
I mean, it cramps black. I mean, when I've played 1H4 online, I've had messages coming back at me like, "You moron, give me some respect." And this is the kind of message I get. But Magnus can get away with it. But it looks kind of sensible, Ivanka, right?
I was going to say actually, you know, after laughing at the first move, I really like Magnus's position. You know, David mentioned that the bishops are better, but I'm actually going to say there's another piece that I think is better, and that is White's knight that is stuck there on its starting square, because that knight can actually go to via the D2 square, via the B, and jump onto the B3 square.
Yeah, just to show that knight's path. The black knight, this is the dream destination for White's knight. The black knight, meanwhile, looks nice, but can't jump anywhere, and the journey has started. Black castle the king, and Ivanka, you've highlighted this already. The white knight is going to jump to B3 and then into a nice outpost. And the reason this is a better square than black's knight sits on is because it's anchored by a pawn, and black cannot challenge for the rights to the square. So, yeah, really... I mean, it's small margins here. It should be balanced because the pawn structure is completely symmetrical. Queens are off. It should be a draw with best play, of course, this endgame. But Magnus is a master in endgames. And if, for example, black is just slow and allows this white knight into the position, then this knight is going to dominate proceedings. So a clear plan for white, not so clear for black. Also, I'm slightly surprised in the current position that black has castled his king. When queens are off, kings don't necessarily need to be tucked away in the corner. White's king is much more flexible. White's king has a nice home, just one square forward. And if it comes down to lots of exchanges, a pawn race, for example, White's king is better placed in the middle of the board than black's king off on one side. So the black bishop comes back, and now I'm expecting the white king to step forward, freeing up this white rook. Maybe the white knight, as Ivanka mentioned, will OK, there we go. The white king does step forward. The white knight will park itself on this square later on.
I love the messages. I mean, I sometimes have a little look at Chess24 chat and, you know, some messages like, did Magnus really start with h4? It must be a transmission error. You know, this is the kind of general theme when a move like this is played. He started with 1h4. Maybe he's the only... I don't know, only super grandmaster to have ever played this in a tournament.
A serious game against a serious opponent.
Yeah, against a very good opponent. But his position looks quite nice, right? You couldn't have asked for a better opening position than this.
Yeah. I would have said earlier that Wei Yi is one of the few that wouldn't be kind of perturbed or just kind of annoyed psychologically about facing a move like that one. But the way he's played it, Wei Yi, he's given Magnus way too much respect. If your opponent plays h4, you've got to try and punish them.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
No, he's now just going to get ground down in an endgame potentially, or maybe Wei Yi will hold this game, push it towards a draw, great result, but against 1h4, you want more than that.
I think 1e5 must be a better move against 1h4. I'm just thinking about openings, you know, 1e5, because 1e5 is much more, 1e4 is much more testing. So 1e5 must be a much more testing move, just in case you want to get your theory on the dirty Harry attack ready or whatever. So it is actually a course by another great author, Christoph Selecki. He's done a course called I think it's called the Dirty Harry. It's not on this move because that would just be a bit too outrageous, but it's on a line in the Sicilian, which, so it's already been coined, that phrase.
Yeah. Gosh, no, I really like what Magnus is doing. And Simon, earlier on, you asked about chess tattoos.
I did.
You did. And Drunk Yoda obliged and says, look at their chest tattoo. It's very, very cool.
OK, Drunk Yoda. OK,
Yeah.
I
have to say, I'm really impressed with everyone's chest tattoos.
Okay, I've got to like zoom in on that one somehow. So we'll see if it comes up. OK, yeah, that's quite cool.
It is really
that
cool.
It's funky
like
knight, isn't
like a Viking kind of insignia. It's
it?
really...
It looks like a funky knight on a leg. Is that right? I like it. I like it. Nice work.
It's nice.
Nice work, Drunk Yoda.
I was wondering if it was just Yoda prior to getting that tattoo and then it changed his nick afterwards.
Yeah.
And I also, you know, we do have our quiz of the day where we're asking what is your chess level, and there's a tremendous prize up for grabs, and it's Gawain Jones' lifetime repertoire on the King's Indian. And Robert Ball says, chess level, superhero. Captain Blunder. I like it. But obviously not the blundering part, but I like the kind of tweet. Nice answer. And if you two want to have a chance at winning Gawain Jones' Chessable course on the King's Indian, then remember to tweet your answer using the hashtag #ChessChamps.
Yeah, and the more I look at it, the more I think Magnus has very good chances in this endgame. Also, look at the clock times. Yes, Magnus played a weird first move, but with it, he has gained a 7.5 minute time advantage. One move for that amount of time in a rapid game, it's definitely worth it. I think Wei Yi here, maybe he's keeping a poker face, but maybe just a bit stressed, a bit worried now about the potential of losing to 1h4.
And he's also, I think, has he lost every game today? I mean, if he hasn't lost every game, he's had a really bad day. So he's already on the downward spiral.
I think one draw and 2 losses today.
So, I mean, that's really, you know, and then if you lose against 1h4, you're like, oh, my God, why am I playing chess anymore? It's like, you know, there's no fun.
For the first time, I think, ever, we've seen Wei Yi slightly shake his head there.
Emotion, yeah.
Yeah, and, yeah, I mean, I think I saw those stats just before the event, and he had, what was it, 98, 99% chance of qualifying before today. If he loses this game, he's going to be starting to look over his shoulder. He still needs a win or two, maybe, to kind of lock it down and get into those knockouts. OK, meanwhile, Wei Yi spending a long, long time, but playing a very natural move, bringing the black rook across. Now all the rooks are kind of looking at each other, a bit of symmetry there. If all the rooks disappear, I think black will be much happier. But again, it's the position of the kings, it's the position of the bishops. I think white's king is better than the black king, white's bishops are better than the black bishops. And Ivanka mentioned the white knight, maybe on a better circuit than its counterpart as well.
Yeah, this knight looks key in the long run, doesn't it? I mean, It's just a little bit better for white, isn't it? And that's what Magnus wants. He wants a position which is a little bit better.
And I have to say something, about this position. There's a lot of, you can get a lot of pattern recognition from other openings where you see this is very similar. And as David's highlighting, the knight is going to go to c5 square and then put pressure. And suddenly the advantage becomes a slightly more. Maybe it's the bishop pair. And then it will be maybe better rooks. And then it becomes like a small... You're collecting those little tiny advantages, and together they make something big.
Yeah, and now the black knight's dropped back, and here I was going to say maybe there's a few plans for white. One could be maybe going on the attack, bring the white knight forward, attacking this pawn. One could be maybe a long-term positional thing, and this is one thing that Simon, our friend Keith Arkle, would love to do, push his pawns forward in an endgame, just trying to clamp down on squares, trying to gain some space, and again, just looks slightly, not much, but slightly better for white. Yeah. White is definitely the more flexible of the two. It all depends on whether black at some point can push his pawn forward and just eliminate one half of the board, trade everything off. If he can, maybe he'll draw.
Yeah, I think we know what those inside videos on Chess24 were now looking at in preparation for the World Championships. They were obviously studying this 1h4 move, weren't they? They must have spent at least a week there, probably with quite a lot of alcohol, I'd imagine, if they were going to come and look at that move. But no, I mean, this is just not the move you look at, for something like that. But it's...
If it was the idea of anyone in the Magnus training camp, whose idea do you think is 1h4?
Well, it would have been a drunk Jordan, I don't know, or maybe a Dubov. I don't know, Jordan or Dubov.
Somehow, I suspect... No, you don't think Jan Gustafsson? I can imagine him going, yeah, why not?
It could be as well.
As a joke, maybe.
Yeah.
But Peter Heiner would be like, if you play that, I'm never going to be your coach again. Because I reckon so.
But Magnus, after playing 1f3 in the previous tournament, he came out for an interview where he told me that, we actually did some lines on this, and I had the preparation going, and it was starting out well. I unfortunately forgot the rest of it, but he had actually prepared seriously for 1f3.
See, David was saying that, but I don't know if I believe that.
So.
I don't know if I believe that.
I don't believe that.
Do you believe? Is that true?
I mean, it was obvious in the game, right?
Okay,
because 4 moves later, he was at least equal, maybe even better as white. Imagine after one.
And he's done the same here, yeah. So, mate, I mean, new way of playing. So.
The speed with which he played, he actually told me afterwards, he was like, OK, these 2-3 lines, white is not lost, but much, much worse. Big disadvantage, but it's not easy for the opponents. Wei Yi has never studied 1h4, I can tell you that now. Duda has never studied 1f3 before that one day, I can tell you that. It's just mind games, Chess is very rich, whole variety of moves you can choose from.
Are you inspired, David?
Nope. I would never touch this one, even with a barge pole, but hey, the black bishop. That's a weird move. The black bishop was on this square, what was it, 4 moves ago, and the black bishop went from f8 to e7 to d8 to e7 to d8. It's like doing a bit of a yo-yo dance, this black bishop.
I really like your knight jump idea towards the king side, but mainly with the idea of bringing it towards the centre now. Something like this, we could maybe show it on the analysis board. It just seems like white has better pieces, but this idea David pointed out, it creates a threat against the pawn, and let's just say black defends that threat by moving it or something. The main idea is to centralise the knight, right? When there's some really nice outposts for that knight to come into, which can't be guarded by a black pawn. And it's a very simple idea.
Very simple. I mean, I think this one's definitely on Magnus's radar. Also, moving the rook makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure which square, maybe this one, maybe this one. I do notice the undefended knight here. That's why Magnus actually shifts his rook the whole way across. Now there is a bit of a small threat here. If Ding defends his knight, which is undefended. If he just moved his bishop, for example, then white can play bishop takes pawn check, throwing the bishop out the way, gaining a pawn in the process, and now he's unleashed his rook with a discovered attack to capture this black knight. So that's a devastating threat. Ding did defend against it. He pushed his rook forward 1 square, defending this knight, defending its bishop. But I'm just asking myself, what is this bishop doing? Why did he retreat it to the square? Last move, he's blocked it in. Strange stuff from Wei Yi.
But there's so many pieces left on the board. There's so many complications left, and if you're looking at the time, this is not boding well here time-wise for Wei Yi, is it, Sam?
It's not at all. No, I mean the time is bad, and he's under a lot of pressure. I mean he's put all his pieces on that left-hand side of the board, and they're just getting in the way of each other. Magnus has created even a threat with his last move to win material if he just starts swapping things, and you know, they're discombobulated. I haven't got that word in yet, and I'm really happy to get it in. It's my favourite word, discombobulated. I love it. Everyone's got does everyone have a favourite word? I don't know. Do you have a favourite word, Jovanka?
Everyone's going to be on Google right now searching what discombobulate means.
It just sounds nice, doesn't it? Like discombobulated. It's like onomatopoeia. It sounds like what it is. Or, I don't know. But any favourite words?
Cellar door.
Cellar door.
Have you ever thought about it? It's actually just a door for a cellar, but it sounds like it's taken out of a Tolkien novel. It's like cellar door.
Sounds like the name of an elf. Or something.
Exactly.
Or it could be like an area, couldn't it? Cellar door. Go to the mythical range of cellar door.
Next to Gondor.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it actually. No, but it's like whole door, isn't there? Whole door.
Hodor.
Oh yeah. That was from the Game of Thrones, I think. So,
Yeah.
David, you got a favourite word?
I would literally never thought of this.
I know, really.
Favourite
On the
word.
spot now. Checkmate, probably.
Did study
you.
English literature, so
Yeah, you've got a very good...
My favourite expression, which is kind of borrowed from Lord of the Rings, is when you're trying to set up a fortress and you're kind of like, you shall not pass. And it's like the Gandalf approach, you know, and I actually got it from some Scottish friends, and they were like, yeah, you know, you should play the Gandalf approach. And I was like, well, what's that? You shall not pass. I was like, OK. Very ambitious then.
I'm guessing that the only one who wants us to go into Lord of the Rings analogy right now is Nakamura, and it's not playing. So.
yeah, Magnus is Sauron. That's to stop him.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I mean, Nakamura kind of posted this tweet about how Magnus is Sauron, he's the only one who can stop him, and that was years ago, and for a while it looked like he would never challenge Magnus again, but now he's in the candidates. Yeah. Maybe we'll see Nakamura against Sauron. Who knows?
It was a bit of a joke, right, you know, because he said that, all those things, but then when the statistics really did not bear any resemblance to Nakamura's claims, it was like a heavy result for Magnus.
He posted that, and then he lost the next several games to Magnus over the board. So,
but if we spin on that, though, I'm curious what you guys are thinking, because I know a lot of viewers back home probably think that Magnus's claims about not playing another World Championship is complete bogus. Is how he's going to. The way he talks about it, it sounds like he's very sincere about the option of not defending his title. Do you think Nakamura is a guy who could instill some excitement and some fun in that matchup?
I think that's one way to guarantee Magnus playing the World Championship if Nakamura wins the candidates.
Because he doesn't want him to be world champion.
He would not step aside for Nakamura. Sure.
Okay, no, I think you might be right there, actually. I think it's like, he cannot allow Nakamura to be world champion. He's like, that's one guy.
But do you think that Magnus will be willing to kind of step aside for anyone?
I mean, I think it's an option. I don't think he has to play. I don't see why he should.
Yeah, I can imagine that. But then
it's his life. He can make his own decisions, and if he thinks it's best for him, then...
I agree in principle with that, but then the reality is that someone else, by default, is going to become world champion.
Well, I think...
And that might be a difficult pill to swallow.
I don't know what's going to happen when it gets to it. It'd be very interesting. I mean, maybe it's... I also think it's more likely he will play for the World Championships, but it's finishing on the top, isn't it, as well? You know, how long will he play for? He doesn't want to play for another 20 years, does he, and lose the World Championships? So... It's really hard. I don't know. It's very strange. You know, I don't know any other world champions who have ever done that. Has there been?
Apart from Fischer, maybe.
Yeah, Fischer. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But what is also strange about it is the fact that he said he doesn't want to quit playing chess. He wants to reach 2,900. He wants to reach for the unattainable, but he just, to put it simply, or to put it in straight terms, he's quite bored with the extreme preparations necessary to play a World Championship match in the current format.
And you can see it in this game, right? You can see that he's having fun.
Yeah.
You know, in this game, when he plays F3, there's not any preparation. He's enjoying himself. But when he plays the World Championships, you have to do months of work on stuff maybe you don't want to work on. So you have to do that again. So, it's maybe they need to change the format then of the World Championship somehow. It's I don't know. David, I mean, you probably know him the best out of all of us, and what are your thoughts on the matter as well?
I hope he'll play. I mean, it's a hard one. He's serious right now about not playing. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But we'll see. In a few months, a lot could change. And candidates next month is going to be super exciting. Nakamura would be cool. I think that would be match of the century. Carlsen against Nakamura. Imagine the press.
I think it'd be great for chess as well, having an American, you know, it's very popular chess over there. They've got lots of money in the game. Having an American fight like Fischer for the World Championships would be good for chess, and having that rivalry would be great as well. So I think it would be a good World Championships, definitely. And
as we've seen on the tour before as well, Nakamura can push Carlsen to the limit. It's not a foregone conclusion, even if that does happen. So, yeah, I mean, while there have been a few moves in this game, maybe we can jump in, because Magnus has been thinking for a long time, and I don't feel he's got, maybe it's still good for White, but he hasn't found the winning blow. And it was in this position where White is actually threatening to win material, as Simon pointed out. For example, if Black just plays a quiet move, White can just trade everything off. White can actually give up one of his rooks for 2 pieces here. He can remove Black's bishop from the board and win Black's knight at the end. It's important that White's rook can actually come back and block any attack. We would see in a situation like this 2 knights against 1 black rook, and Magnus would have all the chances. 2 knights, 2 pieces are better than 1. But Wei Yi spotted that threat. He brought his knight to attack this white bishop, and after this knight was captured, he took back with a pawn. And I think that's for 2 reasons. Black, yes, he's worsened his pawn structure, but at least the black king now has a safe square. He's not going to get checkmated on the back rank. The black king has some breathing space. But also, for example, I thought that this white knight jump was very strong at first. I thought it was almost winning. But the black pawn now can step forward and challenge this white bishop, and it's less clear than it should be. Suddenly, personally, I don't see a way forward for White. Maybe you have to take a step back with your bishop. You're still doing well because you have this really, really monstrous strong knight. But wow,
I was going to say Magnus will play G4, you know, because this is just Magnus, isn't it? He sees his opponent's idea, stops it.
Yep.
You know, it keeps the threats alive. Yeah.
Yeah, Black wants to push this pawn, so why not push and cover this square? Now this is a monstrous threat now. The white knight jumping in, a winning threat for Magnus if he can achieve it. Because if he eliminates this bishop, then he eliminates the defender of this black knight. And the black rook has had to swing across. If the white knight jumps in now, then I think there might be some tricks involved. I think Wei Yi is looking down at this white rook. And, for example, after knight takes pawn, he has a nasty pin along this line. And he actually wins material. So it's tactical. It might be an endgame, but it is full of tricks. White's desired move doesn't quite work yet. And maybe Wei Yi's hanging on for now. Still looks good for White, though.
Still looks great for White, but definitely there's some tricks in the air. And this is one thing I noticed with Wei Yi. You know, I had personal experience of playing him. He is tactically sharp.
Yeah. And I heard a lot of the Chinese players, actually, they learnt Chinese chess first. They learnt Chinese chess where it's all about 2-3 move tactics. Pretty much that's how you win the game, 2 or 3 move tactics here and there. It's all about calculation. And then if they learn kind of classical chess, the chess we know after, then they can use those skills. That's why they're so tactically sharp, so young. And I think I heard that about Wei Yi years and years ago. But yeah, he's a tactician for sure. And Magnus had a 6-7 minute time advantage. That's starting to disappear. Maybe he's frustrated. He can't find the winning blow. There's also pressure on Magnus. He wants to play h4 and win, right? He doesn't want to play h4 and lose, and for there to be jokes about that for years. Magnus wants to seize the moment. This is probably the best position he could ever hope for from 1h4.
And talking about terrible opening moves, we have a tweet from Elmer Johnson, who says that the worst first move has to be, and he says the sodium attack. Do you guys know what the sodium attack is?
One knight A3, is it?
Knight A3.
Yeah.
I know why it's called the sodium attack.
Yeah.
Oh, it says in the tweet.
Because it says in the tweet, it gives the game away because Na is the name of sodium.
Yeah. I think it's not as bad as knight H3 though. But yeah, anyway.
Actually, I'll give you a fun fact that Elmer shared with me as well here earlier. He's saying that Eminem released a song called Discombobulated in 2020. So you're on the hip hop type, the white vibe today.
I am, yeah. I didn't even realise actually. It was just pretty bad. So yeah. Right, I have to listen to that song. Used to like myself a little bit of Eminem, so who doesn't?
It's a good warm-up music. Wow, Magnus doing what Magnus loves best. You know, he loves to do. He just pushes that pawn, Harry, 1 square forward and takes as much space as possible. And this is something we've seen with Magnus. You know, he's kind of got, I liked Carl Portman's expression, helicopter vision. You know, it's all over the board. You know, he's like expanding, taking small advantages here and there. And we were discussing this morning, and we were talking about Jurassic Park and our favourite scenes. And he was telling me that his favourite scene in Jurassic Park is when the hunter is hunting the velociraptor, and he's going to shoot it, and another one comes over from the side, and it's like, oh, good girl, and then he gets killed.
I just wanted to add one little thing here prior to taking this move by Wei, and that's the fact that the comeback player of the day, like we had Jordan yesterday, today it has to be Ariantari. He won his third game in a row. He's now up to 15 points. He looked like he was dead out of the water in this tournament. Right now, prior to the other games ending, he's on equal points as the 7th and 8th place.
Wow, that's brilliant. What a day. So he's back in the running. So, yeah, great news.
And I think we learnt in previous events earlier this season that normally the magic number is around 21, 22. If you can get that, you've pretty much secured your place in the knockouts, in the quarterfinals. Yeah. And meanwhile, there was a move. White played h4 on move 1, pushing Harry up the board. It took him 21 more moves to push his h-pawn up again. And Wei Yi said, you're going no further. That black pawn has blocked the advance of Harry. And yeah, status quo is still maintained. It looks so good for White. White has the better pawn structure. Black has those doubled f-pawns, remember. White has all the pressure. White's rook's looking up the board. White's knight's ready to jump in. But for now, it's holding together. I don't see anything direct. And I think that's frustrating for Magnus. Wei Yi, the last few moves, I think he's defended really, really well.
Yeah, and, there's no obvious way, and he's relying on these little tactics to stop that big knight coming in. I mean, I guess if there's nothing immediate, White should think about manoeuvring his worst pieces to better squares. I mean, this is just a standard way to think about a middle game position. Often, players think, OK, I don't know what to do in the middle game. This is the middle game, even though the queens are off. Look at your pieces which are good. You don't need to move them. Look at your pieces which are bad. So I'd be looking at the white knight by the king. Maybe we could just highlight that, David. And I'd just be thinking, OK, it might look like an OK piece, but it's not doing a great deal. Maybe I could even bring it back and try to target some weak squares in the long run. So this would just be quite a lazy way to play. I was even thinking going to E1.
Yeah, me too.
And bringing it around to the big weakness we've talked about before. Maybe just something like this is a sensible way to look. OK, you have to watch out for some tactics, but it defends the rook as well. So,
exactly.
Yeah, so
it's like a multi-purpose move.
Yeah.
You're getting my vote already, Simon.
Looks very logical, doesn't it? Just to defend the rook, so maybe your other knight can jump in, but just improve it. And he's gone for David's move, of course.
Sorry, guys. I mean, the reason I was more attracted to this one first is because I thought it was maybe more urgent to protect this bishop. There's a few lines with where this bishop is a bit loose, and I just... You know me, Jovanka, I know you've mentioned this before. When I'm low on time, low on the clock, I just want to defend every piece. So actually, this one wasn't really on my radar. I liked it as soon as you said it, but Magnus choosing the other route. At least now he defends his other knight, he defends his bishop, just in case, for example, there was a knight check, Black giving up a knight, jumping into the middle of the board. For example, White recaptures. Suddenly, this bishop, it looks like Black can take it, but it is defended by White's knight. So after a trade of rooks, White can win this piece back. White wins material. So Magnus just, with this knight move, keeping everything protected. Just good, rapid chess strategy, I think. And the onus is on Wei Yi again. I think Magnus is just saying, OK, here's the move. I'm throwing it back to you. You've got 2 minutes. What are you going to do? It's
very hard for Black to move, right? And again, like, Black's got all his pieces huddled over there, but what can Black do? I mean, how does he break out of that? How does he do anything here? And I can't really see...
Maybe he doesn't. He takes a leaf out of the book of The Art of Doing Nothing and simply
our favourite book. Yeah,
the problem is for Wei Yi, he can't... OK,
he's done something.
Jumps in with his knight into the centre, but I was going to say, he couldn't just wait and sit and do nothing, because every move he had to calculate White's knight jumping in. Now we see a trade of rooks. And he did decide to do something. He's happy now if the light squared bishops come off. He's just trying to kind of free up his position with the exchanges. And this wouldn't have been possible, actually, if Magnus had used the square for the white knight that you wanted, Simon. Yeah. White's knight now in the middle of the board blocks the white rook. And there we go, Magnus trading off a set of knights. The knights are definitely going to leave the board now because White's rook is also attacking the black bishop at the top. So Black's bishop needs to move or be defended.
This is one case where the white knight is going to be stronger than the black bishop because, again, throughout the whole game, that white knight has this beautiful square. You know, once the pair of knights get exchanged, you'll have a position knight versus bishop. And, you know, sometimes the knight can be better than the bishop. And in this case, it's that white knight on the left-hand side of the board. It can jump into the game. And target black's pawn. So it's a Magnus position still, isn't it? I mean, he's going to really be enjoying this.
Yeah, maybe there was something better, more direct, but Magnus has steered the game into a situation where he knows there's almost zero risk at this point for white, and he still has weaknesses to nibble at in black's camp. That black a6 pawn, I'm looking at it, it's very weak. White's rook is going to come up to the 6th rank maybe and target it. Black has doubled pawns, weaknesses on both sides of the board, and yeah, knights are super tricky in these types of positions.
And you can just see where he is not happy, and also he's coming to just under a minute on the clock, and he's moved his bishop. And I have to say, I think Magnus has played a really flawless game. It's been incredibly instructive.
Very controlled.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like David said, maybe there was something stronger, but he's controlled it, right? And he's done everything his way so far. So he's got the position he wants. He's pushing a little bit.
So smooth.
Yeah, yeah, totally
so easy. And you have to bear in mind that Wei Yi is an incredibly strong player.
Yeah.
And to do this to him
H4.
without too much effort.
It's the way to play. The future of chess.
Such a bad influence for the young generation.
I know, this is the thing. You know, you're going to have to show this game. There's going to be like, you know, loads of YouTube videos coming by, all the people saying, Magnus wins with H4. All these kids are going to tune into the channel. Oh, my words, H4. This is my secret opening. And they're all going to start playing it, and it's going to be a disaster.
Good for us, Simon. We'll be able to rack up the points against these guys who play.
I don't think that they will be doing it. I think most people will go, very good, Magnus, very good. But we'll leave that kind of stuff to you.
And now, let's do a comparison of all the pieces. It's level material actually on the board, but the reason white is winning, and you see the evaluation bar so far in white's favour, is because white's rook is better than the black rook. Black's rook is stuck, just doing a defensive job. White's knight has more potential than the black bishop. White's knight, any moment we can jump in. We've highlighted a few squares the white knight will use. At the moment, it's sitting nice and pretty, staying flexible. But also, compare the kings. Magnus's last move, the white king is getting ready to enter the centre. It's going to go towards the middle of the board, where black has doubled pawns. The black king, meanwhile, stuck a bit offside, not really able to participate. So all of those small things, they do add up. Also, the clock, that's another, maybe the fourth advantage for white. Having extra 3 minutes in a position like this when you are the one pressing, your opponent is defending. Defending a position like this is torture.
Grim.
When you have no time.
Especially against the world champion. And I understand black's last move. You want to exchange pawns off, try to swap down. At least with that last move, he's maybe going to push his pawn and try to do that.
Yeah. Do you want to know the path of this bishop, Simon? It started on the f8 square. It went to e7. It went to d8. Then next, it went back to e7. Then it went back to d8. Then again, it went back to e7 and back to d8. This is the third time this bishop has sat on this square. And meanwhile, yes, he's supporting this pawn push using his bishop, but the white king has indeed centralized itself. This pawn is now a big target. It's up for grabs.
I mean, is it now time for Wei Yi just to break out, push the pawn?
Must be time
because otherwise he's simply going to get suffocated.
He's done it. He's got to do this, hasn't he? He's you know trying to swap off and.
It's good strategy actually. Yeah, abandon pawns. Pawns are less important in endgames than activity, and he needed to free up his rook, free up his bishop. So, for example, if the white king takes this pawn now, then after a trade of pawns, at least this black rook is going to get in the game. For example, it can drop down, start attacking some of white's pawns. It's not one-way traffic anymore. So still very, very good for white. It should be a position where he can maybe press for a win, but ding, I like his last couple of moves at least. The white knight jumps in now, and I think we'll see a trade of pawns. Black's rook needs to break free, like the Queen song.
I was thinking that too.
Can you sing it?
I want to break free. There you go.
Nice one, Ivanka.
And then you go.
I
want to break free.
I'm trying to think of the drums.
And then it goes, you're so self-certain. Okay, anyway.
No, it's good. Keep going. Yeah. David, how's it go next? No, we've got
to butcher a classic.
No.
17 seconds. Anyway, we've got to head back because it didn't have so much time. And, well, the rook is out. It's out. It's broken free. And, well, you know, it's threatening some pawns. And this should bring Wei Yi a little bit of joy.
Yeah. And the clock situation is maybe less important now because Wei Yi's few moves, they are pretty much forced. Some of them, he has to go active with his rook. He has to attack pawns. If you take a time out with black, then white's just going to kind of swarm all over you and take all of your pawns. So this move, very, very important. The rook has broken free on the second rank. That's where a lot of targets will lie. Magnus, is he going to jump back with his knight, maybe protect that white pawn on the f2 square? Is he going to push that attacked pawn forward one square? Okay, Magnus, he's the one actually, he needs to be accurate, because if Wei Yi gets the opportunity to maybe trade the black bishop for the white knight, good drawing chances. Very good drawing chances here.
I like what black's done.
Yeah.
I mean,
He has to do this.
It's a really tough position, and you never, if you got to, well, I say never, but you shouldn't try to defend passively. This is maybe the biggest typical mistake that lower-rated players play, defending passively.
Clever move there from Wei Yi. This is not defending passively. He set up a big threat, and actually we have to show this because now Magnus has to be careful. There's a trap in the position. If Magnus is careless after this rook move, then he will lose the protection of his knight. It looks like the knight is nicely defended with his king, but okay, he finds a safe move. If Magnus had been greedy here and gone after some pawns, then black would actually throw his own pawn forward, distracting away the white king. The white king has to move away from its knight, and the white knight drops. Suddenly, black would be the one playing for the win. So Magnus forced to defend passively. We said that, Simon. It's not what he wants to do, but it's what he has to do. He drops his rook the whole way back to hold on to his knight. And yes, this pawn is still under fire from white's king, but suddenly white's rook and knight on defensive squares. Wei Yi doing a great job.
Yeah, and he's doing it with not that much time on the clock. He made that move with just 6 seconds to spare.
Yeah.
It's not an easy task at all.
Yeah.
But what do you think about this move, though? It's slightly...
Well, I don't know what he's going to do next. That's the problem. I'm not sure what his next move is. This move on its own may be okay, but what does he do next?
Yeah, I like Magnus's last move. White has to be slightly careful. He doesn't kind of self-checkmate. The white king has no escape squares, really. But, yeah, as you mentioned, Simon, the black bishop was stuck, so it had to retreat.
Can you now take the pawn? OK, this way, and then take the pawn with the knight. Next move would be very shortly. OK, so...
To calculate very well, though.
You have tricks here, right? Because Wei Yi could actually move the rook to the c2 square and threaten checkmate.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that'd be too tempting not to play, wouldn't it? I mean,
especially in blitz chess, if black could pick up his rook and put it on the c4 square, that is checkmate immediately. But unfortunately, if the black rook moves, then the white knight is free. And okay, maybe he's setting that up next move, Jovanka. Black first defends pawns with his own king. Well, this one is getting...
It's getting a little bit,
results possible suddenly.
Yeah.
Okay, Magnus one pawn up, but Wei Yi can threaten checkmate.
Oh, he's not. He's going...
Oh.
Where's that king going? Does he just want to free up the black f-pawn to come down and check? Wow, there's a trap. There's a huge trap.
He loves his traps, doesn't he?
He's setting all the traps for Magnus. Magnus now, if he gets greedy, I was going to say he can win a second pawn. But suddenly, the black pawn is going to come down, and this is checkmate, white's king.
And we know what that pawn checkmate is called.
Look at this stockfish evaluation.
David and Goliath.
Wow, there's only one move for Magnus, otherwise Magnus is actually going to lose. Guys, there's only one move for Magnus, otherwise he's lost.
Okay.
He has to push his pawn forward with a check.
Right.
I think that's very seeable, very findable, this move, because there is a pin along this line, but it's just about ruling out the other moves. You can't move your knight. We saw that this pawn will come down with a checkmate. And, yeah, OK, he finds it, Magnus. Oof, he has the advantage now. The black king, however, is getting active, is taking some pawns. So it's becoming a pawn race. Is Magnus going to be able to push his pawns? Are those pawns going to be sufficiently fast? That is the question. Black now has some counterplay. And pawn takes pawn. I like this move. Now, the white knight is super safe. No more checks. And this black bishop is running out of squares. Looking good for Carlsen again.
Running out of time as well.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that the white rook now can start to activate itself. But Wei Yi, you know, he's still a tricky customer because the bishop can switch diagonals and maybe start attacking the weak e3 pawn.
Yeah. I mean, he set up 2 checkmating traps. He's set up traps to win the white knight. I mean, Magnus, we've seen a few one-move blunders from him in previous games. And wow, another one-move checkmate threat on the board where he wants to bring his rook back to the c4 square on the 4th rank. White's king covers any potential checks.
It'd be horrendous facing Wei Yi when you've got no time at all, because he keeps setting up these horrible little moves.
But he's playing creative defense here, though.
He is.
Great defense from Wei Yi. I mean, to get this far, I mean, we thought it was a tremendously difficult position, but to get this far has almost been miraculous. But
probably not
5 seconds, 5 seconds. Make a move, Wei Yi. You don't have too much time.
In doubt, take a pawn with the black king. Okay, he attacks this white pawn with the black bishop now, black rook. But Magnus...
He's going to probably block it with a knight.
Yeah, I think he can block the black bishop with a knight. Now Magnus can bully Wei Yi with trades. If the knight and bishop come off the board, white is completely winning. So, okay, maybe is Magnus going to move his knight? What else could he be looking at?
Maybe. Yep,
Okay.
it's on the board.
Now, taking this knight now would probably just lose for black. White has this B pawn. That's why black had to go and keep an eye on it. It's not that easy to push it yet. Maybe the white king at some point will just walk over and guide it up the board. Actually, that looks like a good move. Just bring the king over.
Yeah.
Support that pawn.
Makes
I
a lot of
love
sense.
it. And
what
teamwork
else?
makes the dream work. Utilize every single piece you have. And what? Oh, no. This was my first instinct, but then I changed my mind. I wasn't sure about this.
Okay, so he's taken a pawn. Magnus temporarily was 3 pawns up, but he's lost his most valuable pawn. That white B pawn was surely destined to promote. Magnus has given it away, and he's tried to calculate this one. He's aiming for a rook and a pawn endgame, but I don't like this practical decision for Magnus. It's now purely a pawn race, and is white quick enough? Black is going to create a pass pawn of his own. Black's H pawn.
He has a trick up his sleeve, right? He's going to give a check. I mean, can black take the pawn?
Big question. Can black take the H pawn?
Yeah.
White's H pawn that he pushed on move 1, is it about to fall off the board? He takes it. He had to calculate there, but I think this is what Magnus had maybe misjudged. He thought maybe the white rook could slide back 2 squares, give a check, and slide across. We have to show this on the board right now. And actually, Magnus still has chances to win. The computer thinks that Magnus should bring his rook across, cut off this black king, cut off its kind of attempts to recentralize itself. But maybe what Magnus has misjudged is that the white rook cannot come back and stop this now, because after a trade of rooks, I think black is just in time to push his pawn. Oof, it's pawn race. Even I'm not sure here.
It's been a long day, David.
It's been a long
I
day.
can't calculate these ones at the moment.
White is making a queen, black is making a queen, who knows? But, OK, I think Magnus, going away from that option, he is banking all on this pawn now.
Isn't this just a draw?
It looks like a draw. Black is in time now.
Yeah.
Black is just going to push this pawn and try and self-stalemate. For example... Oh, I'm not so... OK, the evaluation bar has gone up.
know.
Black maybe is one move too slow, because after this move, Simon, White's rook can slide back, attacking this pawn, and if the pawn moves, this, again, building a bridge, we call it, blocking the black rook, stopping it from sacrificing itself for this pawn, and then this pawn just promotes.
It's not just a draw, is it? No.
But maybe you can actually
in-
check,
Look at the
check
time,
the
guys.
king.
Look at the time.
Yep.
Yeah, look at the clock.
Oh.
Is he
Wait.
lost on time?
2 seconds left.
2 seconds. Let's go back to the
Incredible.
players, because it's just so dramatic. We will explain this endgame a bit later when we get the result. But maybe Magnus is just in time now.
Yeah, I mean, here's his king. King can go in front of the rook now. If it gets checked again, it doesn't go in front of the pawn, it goes in front of the rook. I hope I got this right, otherwise... Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
And this is just
White is
winning.
making a new queen, and I think he's
Nice.
just in time to win
in
this
time.
one.
Yeah.
Valuation bar changes.
Well,
It's opinion again.
it's not... I mean, you still...
It's a race. OK, can White just block this with his rook?
But then the king gets out of his
Calculation.
cage.
Ideally, we need 2-3 minutes to just sit there, calculate. Oh, it's a pawn race. White promotes, black gives up his rook for the pawn, and then, oh, is white in time to stop the black pawn? But neither... I mean, we don't have the time,
No.
neither
We probably
do the
don't.
players.
We don't have time to show it, maybe, but it is just calculation. And I mean, these are great training exercises. Positions like this, if you want to improve your calculation, don't necessarily have to look at positions with lots of pieces on the board. Look at positions like this, where you've got to work out, can you block with the rook, and what happens then if the black rook gives itself up for the pawn? Because there's only one train of variation, and you have to visualise that one variation as far ahead as possible. In more complex middle games, you have to visualise many different variations. I find these very good for improving
I think he's
calculation.
in time, actually.
As an example, just to show White can win the black rook at any moment for the queen, but it's all about whether White can get back and stop this pawn, or whether it will cost White his rook. So it's just a race. Magnus needs to calculate, is he quick enough to bring back the white king in situations like this? He's only got 1 minute, Magnus Carlsen, but does he, for example now, block with the white rook? Does he run away with his king? So many options. That's the problem. So many options, only 1 minute.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so complicated as well, because the white rook is always going to be a very nuisance piece, because it's going to check the black king force it back into the corner.
In situations like this one, just to show why I think this is a draw. For example, yes, you can check, but at the right moment, okay, it's just a race, basically. I think black should go the other way. I'm trying to show your idea, Jovanka, but for example, if you check at the right time, the black king can actually hide in the corner and try and stalemate itself quite often. So we have this position. We're headed towards this position.
I think it's a technical draw, that position you're showing, David. I think that's most likely.
White is too slow.
But, you know, it's again, down to half a tempo.
White needs to promote, but he needs his rook on this square to cut off the black king from going towards the centre. You need to keep the black king in front of its own pawn if you want to win this game. I have a feeling it's winning, but it's so hard to find. And, OK, Magnus repeats the position. This is the second time we've seen this position on the board. If he moves his rook across and if black does the same, then this would end up in a draw. So he, OK, plays for the win. How is Magnus going to win this one? How is he going to promote? He has to bring his king back now the way, the way it came from. He's got to be really careful. The position's repeating itself. This is the second time we've seen this position as well. The king going back this way. Is Magnus maybe going to try and snake his king? I'm trying to say back, but I don't know how this helps. I do not know how this helps. OK, let's see. Magnus, this is the most complicated endgame I've seen in a long time on the Champions Chess Tour. And OK, the black rook goes away. I'm struggling.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, the computer assessment. It's not easy to evaluate if this is a win or draw, even with that assessment, because you can't see.
To tweet us.
You can't see. Yeah, I mean, you can get this on table base, which is a thing that you can use, which will tell you exactly what the computer says, because computers, better ones than the one we're using here.
And now Magnus under 20 seconds. Now they're going down to 10 seconds. And yeah, I actually think it's just a draw. He has to perhaps go into this rook versus pawn endgame.
Yeah.
Oh,
and maybe
a second.
I'm surprised they haven't done free fold by now, this position, actually.
I think the black rook previously wasn't on the first rank.
Yeah, okay,
Magnus has found a way to repeat, but he's just trying to gain time on the clock to calculate.
Yeah, I think
he's not finding the winning plan.
He's got a queen now, but I think this is a draw.
This one is a draw. Black's king is no longer cut off.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the win, to be honest. I think we need some endgame specialists.
What defence there. I mean, from Wei Yi, we were saying how great Magnus is playing, but Wei Yi, just to give himself chances, has done a phenomenal job of getting in defensive position.
But have we started to see, within the past year perhaps, a Magnus sometimes getting too pragmatic in the ending?
I mean, I think his endings are still, I mean, the best there's ever been. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't win this one. I mean, what do you think, David? I mean, is too pragmatic, or?
Yeah, I think just struggling to calculate as deeply as he maybe is used to. And now here we go. The black pawn is just too close to its promotion square. White's king is cut off as well. White's king is going to try and come back, but the black king is going to shoulder it off. And by shouldering, we mean the black king will kind of block the white king from going towards this black pawn. And yeah, this one is a dead draw now. The black pawn just pushes forward. Yeah, if this position with white to play, white would be winning, but nope, the black king is just in time. And here we go. We're about to see a draw.
Yeah.
King versus king. No way to win this game. Magnus shaking his head, and there we go, draw.
Yeah. Well done, Wei Yi.